Hi, I'm Vito. Welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to be showing you around the mix for the song North Dakota by my friends in Overrise, which is out now. You can stream it wherever you regularly listen to music, and you can watch the video we filmed of them recording it right here in this space on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@VitoSound. Without further ado, let's dive into the mix. I'm going to show you some of the processing and try to explain my decisions and reasoning behind why I did some things. So first, let's give it a listen. I'll play the chorus for you guys.
It's like winter in North Dakota. Down 16 runs and soda. 26 straight miles of nothing. 26 straight miles of bullshit. It's like waking up behind the sofa, face down and far from sober. 26 straight miles till I can endure, till I can endure.
So that's with the mastering processing on, and the song is pretty squished. The reference track that I had for this was Lookers by the Menzingers, which is sort of a loudness war era track, and there's very little dynamic range, but my job is to serve the artist's vision and to serve the song, so that's how that was processed. I used Ozone 10, and what I did was I tried to match the Menzinger's tone by giving it a little bit of mid-range, a little less high-end than I initially had mixed it. It's got a wide top end. I used an imager here. We got some cuts on a dynamic EQ, and it is squashed. But we will take off this mastering plugin so we can actually listen to the mix. And I'll bring it up so we get a little bit of gain compensation. All right, so here's the chorus again without the mastering plugin.
It's like winter in North Dakota. Down 16 runs and soda. 26 straight miles of nothing. 26 straight miles of bullshit. It's
definitely brighter and less compressed. So let's take a look at the drums. The drums were recorded live. Their drummer Pat did it all in mostly one take. We punched in, I think, a fill or two, and he recorded it to a click. So I'll take you through how I mixed the drums here. Let's just grab a section. So Overrise, most of their music is pop punk, alt rock, and this song does have sort of a more of a country twang to it, but Pat's drumming is still in that vein of pop punk, and so I tried to treat it the same way we would treat sort of pop punk drums, so that it would match the rest of the catalog. So let's dive right in here. We got a bunch of processing. I will turn it all off so you can hear sort of a before and after, and we can go through. There's two mics on the kick. There's a snare top, snare bottom. Each tom has a microphone. The hi-hat, the ride. There's two overhead mics, and they're all being bussed. So the kicks are being bussed to a kick bus. The snares are being bussed to a snare bus. They have their own short and long reverbs. All the toms are going to a bus. They have their own reverb. The overheads are going to a bus, and then all of those are also going to a drum group right here called drums. So here are the drums with no processing at all. So let's start throwing some things on. I'll show you, well, when I bypassed, it did not bypass the gates, but that's fine. So let's start with the kick. I'll usually just use the built-in noise gate in Cubase. It does a great job, but I wanted to try out this new plugin. This is Black Salt Audio's Silencer, and I had seen that it did a good job, so I wanted to test it out. Here's without. This is the inside kick. And we'll throw in the outside kick. So I'm just gating it and then compressing it a bit. And then this is all going to a kick bus, which sounds completely different. So what's happening on that kick bus is I've balanced the kick in, the kick out, and I'm treating them as one. They're getting an additional 1 or 2 dB of compression. So the key here is a slow attack and a quick release on these individual mics. This allows the transient to come through, and then the compressor clamps down right away. So you get the transient, and then you duck down the rest of the sound. So this is attacking at 33 milliseconds and releasing at 50 milliseconds without a hold. Here, we could turn these on as we go, actually. So here it is with just the compression. Sounds really funky, right? Then I'm using this CLA drums plugin, which is sort of an all-in-one plugin by Waves. I'm adding a bit of sub frequency, which is really low bottom end, and pulling out some of that top end because it had a lot, and just putting a little bit of compression. I had it with a saturation plugin. I ultimately decided against using. And I used this other new plugin that I guess I could have achieved this with 5 separate plugins, but this is a plugin called Knock, and this has a transient shaper called Punch, a saturation, and this has sort of a sub frequency you could add on. Let's see, this is at 7, so you can sort of hear that adding the sub in. I didn't go too crazy with it though. You can add some air. I didn't have to do that here, but that's just the top end. And then clipping it just a little bit. And then an EQ plugin. This is Frequency, which is the built-in, or one of the stock plugins here in Cubase, Frequency 2. So I'm really scooping out a lot of this middle wet cardboard basketball sound. Keeping some of this top clickety. And just emphasizing a little bit of this bottom end. So again, before and after with this strip. Very cool. Over on the snare, we've got the Black Salt Audio silencer, which I find is doing a pretty good job. As a gate, it's just the snare hit, which is what we're looking for. And then the snare on the top has a little bit of EQ. I'm just pulling out some 500 hertz. And it's also being compressed in the same manner that the kick is. 30 millisecond attack, 50 millisecond release. And it's squashing at about 3 dB after that transient. Sorry, so there's just the top. And here's just the bottom. It's really just, it's the wires. So to bring that out, I'm doing the same thing, the same compression, about 3 dB. And then I'm adding this Abbey Road saturation plugin, which is really cool. Check this out. It'll just destroy something. So that combined with the top gave me my my snare sound. This is before the processing. And then on this snare bus, we're using this DBX compressor, which I find has some character. I'm not even doing a lot of compression on this. It adds a little more saturation to the overall sound. I used the Knock plugin on this too, just to add some punch, a little more saturation. There's no sub. I'm not adding sub to the snare, but I'm adding some air, which I didn't do. Which I didn't do to the kick, but I used it here on the snare. And I'm EQing it a little bit. Get that fundamental out here, right around 200. Cutting this out, what's that? I guess that's just a ringy sound I didn't like at the time. Same here. And then giving it that top end, just a tiny bit of that top end back. And finally, another compressor. And this compressor is trying to keep giving it that punch. It's got a slightly slower release. Seems like I had some other plugins on here that I ultimately decided against, so let's see what they are. Different saturation options. That's too much. That's really destroyed. This is a clipper. Anyway, I chose not to use those, so here's the kick and the snare together. And the snare has a short reverb here. I'm using Valhalla Room, just to give it some space. And then this long reverb. We can hear just that long reverb. And just the short. Together. Sound really funny on their own. Alright, let's see if we can get the toms here. What's going on here? We're just, so again, with the Black Salt Audio Silencer, I used it as my noise gate on every one of these drums. And did a pretty good job. Here it is without. It's a lot of bleed. Just toms. And I guess I didn't like that little bit of cymbal bleed, and I threw on another one. But it did kind of dull them down a bit. I've panned this from the audience perspective. It's worth noting, so the ride is on the left and the hi-hat is on the right. I know some people like to do it the other way. This is how I did it because we were filming it at the same time. So the same thing's going on here with the compression on each of these three toms. 3 to 4 dB with that 30 millisecond. That's sort of the sweet spot. It looks like I just kind of copy pasted it here. And then on this tom bus, we have the CLA drums plugin again, which looks like I just used as an EQ and a compressor. It's nice to kind of have the faders dedicated to these individual things, and you're not nitpicking about frequencies. And speaking about nitpicking frequencies, I threw this on to give it that top end back and make sure we don't have any rumble too far down. This is sort of that stick attack area. I removed some of this. I guess I just didn't like that in the mix. And that sounds kind of muddy, so I pulled that out. Alright, and then all of that is going to a tom reverb, which we could just listen to on its own. Again, I'm using Valhalla Room just to get a little bit of reverb. Here's the before. Here's the after. When I'm using these before the drum bus, I'm trying to keep them relatively minimal because I am gating the close mics. So what I'm doing is taking away the room so that I have minimal bleed and can isolate each microphone. So when I'm using the snare or the tom reverb in this instance, it's not to give it its full reverb. It's just to give it a little bit of life back so that it's not dry when he hits a tom. It doesn't just go doo. There's a little bit of doo. There's a little bit of give there. And then we have a reverb later on to treat the entire drum bus. So here we can hear the kicks, snare, and toms all together. But, again, like I said, these are all close mics that have been gated, so they sound kind of mechanical, isolated like that. Here's the hi-hat. So the hi-hat is high-passed really high up. And then I have the frequency plug-in here doing the same thing, but more. All these moves sound weird on their own, and when you're EQing, you really need to be listening to more than just an individual source, because without context, you don't know what you're doing. So the hi-hat is juxtaposed here by the ride, which has something similar going on. Except this ride is being treated with this Jack Joseph Pugue cymbal and percussion plugin. And it's kind of a cool plugin where if you have cymbals that you want to excite a little bit, I like it for that. Here's the before and after with it. Just a little bit of a boost. And again, this one's just being high-passed way up there because the heavy lifting is being done by the overheads here. The individual overhead channels don't have anything on them. They're just panned left and right, hard left and right. And then they're going to this overhead bus here, which here it is without processing. It is high passed up at nearly 3000 hertz. Here it is without. I think what I was doing here was trying to get rid of that, and then realized that in the context of the whole thing, I just wanted the shimmer from it. So here it is. I'm using this Maserati drum plugin. I don't think I've ever used this before, but I slapped it on to try it out, and I liked what it was doing. And then a little compression. Not even active at this part of the song, but I'm guessing there was a part of the song that needed it. Alright. We didn't have any room mics set up, but something interesting now that I could show you are these parallel buses. So, we have a drum crusher bus, which is just parallel drum compression. And you'll see here. Pretty much everything is going there except for the cymbals. And if we just listen to it on its own. The drums are really in your face if you turn it up. So I just use this to taste. The next one is a drum saturation bus, which sounds like the drums coming through a telephone. So that's just dialed in very lightly to give it some top end and a little bit of distortion. And this is a exciter bus, which seems like I didn't use too much. It looks like I high-passed this like crazy. I guess I didn't want the bottom. It's hard to remember every move. I mixed this a couple months ago. So let's put that back down to where it was. And let's listen to the drums all together. Sounds all right. But now let's throw on our drum bus processing. The first thing is this compression, which is not a ton of compression, and it's a little faster. It's faster than the compressors on the individual channels. And really what I was using it for, it seems, was to make up about 12 dB of gain. And I use this Black Salt Audio clipper. So you can use a clipper on your drum bus to chop off the transients and give it more perceived loudness, and it allows you to push it a little more without actually clipping. And then what happened, if I remember correctly, what happened was we were getting a lot of low-end rumble in the mix, so I used this low control, also from Black Salt Audio. I was having fun playing around with their plugins on this mix. So what this does is it compresses below a certain frequency, and then you could choose a specific frequency to enhance, which I barely enhanced, 2%. But here's a before and after. And as you can see, it's barely doing anything, but so that's the drum sound. Let's give it a listen here. One thing I didn't show you is that we really wanted to add a tambourine, and we didn't have one on the day. So what I did was I threw in this MIDI tambourine. Don't tell anyone. And that just sits in there. It's not always there, it's just on the chorus and the intro. All right, let's move on to the bass. Eric recorded the bass direct, and he had a Sans amp. So I got a clean signal as well as an affected signal from his Sans amp, and we blended the two. The clean signal is actually high pass. So here's what that sounds like. And there's some compression on it just to chop off the transients. We're doing about 4 to 5 dB of gain reduction on that. And then here is the affected sound. Yeah, it's a lot fatter. I've also compressed that. Together, we got this. That's all going to a bass bus, and let's take a look at what that's doing. Now that they're together, we've put some compression on that again. A lot less. And a 7 millisecond attack there. An EQ. What are we removing here? Guess I wasn't a fan of that. And we pulled out some 64 hertz. That's right where the kick sits. This beefs it up. This is the R-Bass plugin. And then we got an EQ after that just to bring up some of this top end. I got a few other plugins here I ultimately decided against. I leave them there for experimentation purposes while I'm mixing, but here are the drums and the bass together. Next, we'll take a look at the rhythm guitars. All the guitars were recorded direct, and I'm using the Archetype Neural DSP plugins to get the tone. and simulate the amps. And here we can see we have a left-right. So let's take a listen to that. Listen to it before. So we're using this Cory Wong clean machine. Are they the same on both? Yes, they're the same on both left and right. They're different takes. So that's what that sounds like. It's being high passed at 80 Hertz. There's nothing living below that. And I've just pulled out a little bit of 328 Hertz there. And then that's all being bussed to a rhythm guitar bus, where I've got a CLA2A plugin. Just chopping off a slight amount of transients there. You still want the guitars to have some movement. They don't need to be squashed, in my opinion. And we're using the CLA Guitars plugin, just basically as an EQ with a little bit of compression push there, and an EQ after that to really shape it. Holy smokes! Okay. So what's going on here is this Frequency 2 plugin gives you the ability to EQ the middle or the sides separately. And so what I've done is pulled out 200 Hertz in the middle so that the fundamental of the snare can land there. I guess I didn't like the sound of this 500. All right. And then here we are pulling out some 1K. We're adding on some, really bright top end. Air. So that's the rhythm guitars in the chorus, and then there are rhythm guitars in the verse. They're a little more sparse. Here they are. This paw muted, that one is also a Cory Wong plugin with a different head, and it's got some crunch on it, using the tuber pedal there. But this is one of the coolest things about this Neural DSP amp sim plugin. So if you listen here, this pedal, the wash, it's a reverb pedal, but here it is without. Here it is with. I'll turn up the wet so you can hear it. Whoa. It also has a shimmer button, which we're not using here, but this is really cool. It adds a pad underneath. It sounds like the end of Adam's song by Blink-182. So that's it for the rhythm guitars. Let's take a look at the lead guitars, also recorded direct and using the Cory Wong amp sim by Neural DSP. There it is without anything. So here's the amp sim. We're using largely the same amp sim setup on most of these guitars with different pedals and heads and moving the mics around. Then that is going to a lead guitar bus along with another lead guitar for the verse. And that bus, I'm using a 2A just to compress it a little bit. 2 to 3 dB of compression there. This EQ, I'm bumping it up a little bit in the 1K area. Now we can see why I cut 1K in the rhythm guitars. Pulled out some 200 and some 2K. Just trying to shape it, fit it in around all the other sounds. Using the CLA Guitars plugin. Seems like I was really using these heavily on this mix. Before. With it. And then I'm using Soothe 2 because I felt like there was a lot of harshness that would come and go in this guitar. So we're just getting rid of some of this, like around 4K. That's it for the chorus lead guitar, and we can take a look at the lead guitar being done in the verse here. We'll shut off all the processing just to hear it. So we're using this, again, the Corey Wong Neural DSP plugin. It's a different head, different cab. And we're making use of the effects here. And this is really buried in the mix. There's even an auto pan. Just to have it moving around. And then here it is with the bus processing. Here it is in the mix.
I'm a part of the blame. Don't give me a reason not to stay. It's not hard to regret, and I'm sorry. And don't leave it alone. It's not.
Just to give it some texture, just to spice it up a little bit in the verse there, in that second verse. I don't think it happens in the first. No, it doesn't happen in the first verse, so it's just to pick it up in the second. There's also an acoustic guitar that's buried in the mix, and its purpose is more percussion, so let's give that a listen. I think it's only on... Yeah, we only used it on the choruses and the bridge. So let's hear it on a chorus here. Here it is without any processing. So this was recorded with 2 microphones. They're being hard panned out. Let's give the first one a listen. We're using that for more of the body of the sound. And this one's more for the top end. Both of those are being bussed, so they're both being compressed actually a little bit. Then they're both being bussed to this acoustic bus, which is also being compressed, barely though, 1 or 2 dB. That whole thing is going to this mix bus for it. Here, I'll take it through it individually. Using the 76, here's a before. There's after, really just smoothing it out. And then I used a multi-band compressor here to compress the top a little more, and I wanted to give it some body. Let little more body than it had. And then finally an imager to make it as wide as I could. So here it is with the rhythm guitars. So you can kind of hear it's just adding that strumming on top of it. And then the channel EQ, I'm bringing up the top end. We wanted that strumming to be present. Well, that's it instrumentally, so let's take a look at the vocals.
It's like winter in North Dakota.
The vocals were a lot of fun to record in this song. Not only is Jeff a fantastic singer, the bass player Eric also provided background vocals and had some great oohs and ahs to add to the song. So let's take a look at the main lead vocal in the chorus here. We'll turn off the processing.
It's like winter in North Dakota. Down 6.
All the individual vocal channels have auto-tune on them. This is less to correct poor singer because it's barely working here, but it's more of a tonal and stylistic choice.
Down 16 rums and soda. 26 straight miles of nothing.
You can see it here, barely working.
Bullshit. It's like waking up.
If you want to have a natural sound and use auto-tune, use the flex tune knob. It allows through the natural vocal before it starts to tune it because it's unnatural for a pitch to be perfect as soon as it's sung. Unless you're going for that artistically, which is its own thing. But it's not what we were doing here. And then we're using the CLA 76 plugin to chop off transients.
Behind the sofa, face down and far from sober.
So this is sort of a medium attack and then a fast release. The higher the number, the faster the attack or release. So 7 is the fastest release. It's sort of counterintuitive to what most compressors are like. And yeah, we're doing like 5 to 7 dB of gain reduction here.
26 straight miles so I can't ignore.
And I'm using this vocal chain plugin, which is really dope inside of Cubase. You could do all of your vocal processing in here if you wanted to. It even has pitch correction built in. I'm using it as an EQ here to take out 1200 hertz, a dynamic EQ to pull out some 300 when it gets too much, an exciter, a compressor that acts a little slower than that one. It's not just for transients. This is more of a normal compression.
It's like winter in North Dakota. Down 16 rums and soda.
Another EQ.
Straight miles of nothing. 26 straight miles of bullshit. It's like
And then a de-esser,
the
because when you compress that much, you get a lot of S and sibilance sounds. And I'm actually using the built-in EQ here to dip out some frequencies I didn't like. And I'm using the built-in de-esser as well. The double is exactly that. It is a double.
It's like winter in North Dakota.
It has all the same processing, and it's 6 dB quieter. It's there to just reinforce the lead vocal. I'm a big fan of doubling vocals on songs like this, especially a large chorus like this. I think it makes it feel bigger. And hey, if it's good enough for John Lennon and Kurt Cobain, then we can use the same trick. So then both of these tracks are going to, I'll turn on the sends now, they're going to parallel buses here.
And soda, 26 straight miles of nothing.
So here's a vocal compression bus.
It's like waking up behind the sofa.
That's it alone.
Down and far from sober. 26 straight miles so I can't ignore.
That's doing about 6 dB of gain reduction constantly, just making everything as flat as possible. And then there's a doubler I put here, which is only on the doubles. So that quieter vocal double is being sent to a vocal doubler bus, which we can listen to here. Here it is alone. And here it is with everything.
26
Without.
miles of bullshit. It's like waking up behind the sofa.
I'll turn it up.
Face down and far from sober. 26 straight miles so I can't ignore.
And I think that gives it some more space. I On its own, it sounds a little odd and robotic, but in the context, I find it spreads out the vocals a little bit more. And then these individual vocal channels are being sent to a lead vocal bus.
It's like a winter in North Dakota.
Here's
Down
without.
16 rums and
Here's
soda. 26 straight miles of nothing. 26 straight.
So here I'm using a de-esser right away. The frequency 2 plugin to shape it. I guess I didn't like what was going on down here.
Miles of bullshit. It's like waking
That's
up
a little
behind
muddy.
the sofa.
Give it some more
Face
top
down
end.
and far from sober. 26 straight miles till I can
Little
ignore,
de-esser.
till I can endure. It's
And
like
finally a
winter in
2A.
North Dakota, down 16 rums and soda.
Just leveling it off a little bit.
26 straight miles of nothing.
That is going
26
to a
straight
vocal
miles of
bus,
bullshit.
which is where all the vocals are going. And on there, I'm using
Bullshit! It's like waking up behind the
Still A2A.
sofa. Face down and far from sober. 26 straight.
small amounts of compression as we go. And then there's the Soothe 2 plugin on that as well.
6 straight miles till I can ignore, till I can endure. It's like a winter
Here's
in
before.
North Dakota. Down 16
And after.
rums and soda. 26 straight miles of nothing. 26 straight miles of bullshit.
And then that is going to a vocal mix bus where I'm using this Oxygen plugin. This is my first time using it, but I really liked it. It adds some air, surprisingly. Check it out.
Bullshit! It's like waking
Without.
up behind the sofa.
With it.
Face down and far from sober. 26 straight miles till I can ignore, till I can endure. It's like a winter in North Dakota. Down 16 rums and soda. 26
So I just use
straight
it for a
miles of
little bit of
nothing.
added
26 straight miles of bullshit. It's like waking up
Saturation.
behind the sofa. Face down and far from sober. 26 straight miles till I can ignore, till I can endure.
I was playing around a lot with these Black Salt Audio plugins on this mix, it seems. All right, let's take a look at the harmony vocals. Where are they? Here they are without processing.
It's like winter in North Dakota. Down 16 rums.
So this is Jeff's harmonies.
26
They have
straight
similar
miles of
processing to
nothing.
the
26
leads.
straight miles of bullshit.
So it's got the auto tune. We're using the R comp compressor, and I'm using the vocal chain. I think a lot on these. Yeah, I did a lot on the vocal chain here. So
From sober.
I'm cutting it at about
26 straight
200.
miles till I can ignore, till
de-esser. We got dynamic EQ, and this EQ is to shape it and kind of fit it around the lead vocals. A compressor. There's an exciter on here.
Dakota, down 16 rums and
This
soda.
compressor is doing anywhere between
26
3 and 5 dB of compression there. And then another de-esser. We have Eric's harmonies here, and he's just punching some words.
It's like winter in North Dakota. Down 16 rums and soda. 26 straight miles of nothing. 26 straight miles of bullshit. It's like waking.
And he's got the same processing going on. These all have the same vocal chain. All those harmonies are going to a vocal harmony bus, which is here.
It's like waking up behind the sofa. Face down and far from sober. 26 straight miles
We'll
till
go through
I
this.
can ignore, till I can endure.
So it's got pretty much the same processing as the lead vocal bus. I'm using a de-esser, frequency 2 for a little bit of EQing. We really don't need any of that bottom end on these background vocals. They're singing quite high, and that just muddies the waters. We've got another de-esser and a 2A.
It's like winter in North Dakota.
Doing a ton of
Down
compression.
16 rums and soda. 26 straight miles of nothing. 26 straight miles of bullshit. It's like waking.
About 10 dB of gain reduction there. And then this S1 imager
Like waking up behind the sofa.
to spread it out
Face down and far from
and give us space in the middle.
sober. 26 straight miles till I.
space in the middle for those lead vocals. From the bus, they're also sending to reverb and delay to give them some space, so we could hear that now. If you want to just hear the actual effects alone. Here it is with everything.
26 straight miles of nothing, 26 straight miles of bullshit. It's like waking up behind the sofa, face down
There it is,
and
dry.
far from sober. 26 straight miles till I can ignore it, till I can endure. It's like winter in Nordic.
So that's it with the reverb and the delays. Let's take a look at what reverbs we're using here. We've got plate reverb, the Valhalla Vintage Verb. Plate. I'm using the vocal plate preset, actually. I'm using a large room reverb from Valhalla Room. And the reverb, the hall reverb, is getting a sidechain compression from the vocal bus. So when vocals are coming through, the reverb's being ducked down, and then when the vocal's done, the reverb is allowed to come through.
North Dakota, down 16 miles of soda, 26 straight miles of nothing, 26 straight miles of bullshit. It's like waking up behind the sofa, face down and far from.
So it's ducking it down about 6 dB, and then when he stops singing, it releases and allows the reverb through. I'm doing the exact same thing here on the delay. What are we using for a delay? We're using the stock delay here in Cubase. This thing works great.
Far from sober, 26 straight miles till I can ignore it, till I can endure.
So you don't get a bunch of delay and reverb stepping on top of the vocals. It's there, but it's ducked down, and then when the vocals are done, you get the delay, you get the reverb, which is really where we want it. We don't want it on top of the vocal, burying it. What we want is it to highlight the space in between the vocals. We've got some background vocals, which are very fun. This is Eric. I'll take off the processing. So I'm using this lo-fi plugin, lo-fi space plugin. Here it is without. Here it is with it. It's a tiny amount of spring reverb. And this is going here to this vocal background bus. Squashing it anywhere between 6 and 10 dB of gain reduction, and using this imager to spread it out. And it's also being sent to a reverb here. This Valhalla Vintage Verb. So that's a stack of 6 oohs and ahs that Eric put on there. It was a lot of fun to do. What else do we got? We have this vocal throw that I overlooked.
To regret, and I'm sorry, and don't leave it alone.
That's a very pop punk stylistic thing. So this is same sort of thing here as the lead vocals. It's going through auto-tune, the R comp, and
To regret, and I'm
putting a delay directly on it.
and don't leave it alone.
Putting a delay directly on the channel, which is not usually how I work, but it was just for this one line here, 2 words. So I didn't create a send just for that. And it's distorted. Here it's pretty saturated.
And don't leave it alone.
This is what's doing the heavy lifting on that distortion.
I'm sorry.
And then we've got the gang vocals on the outro chorus, and the key to gang vocals is to not overprocess it because you want them to be a little bit out of time and a little bit out of pitch. That's what gives the effect of lots of people singing together. We recorded 4 tracks of this, of all 4 of them singing together, and they're panned out, and there's no processing at all being done to the individual channels. Here it is unprocessed.
It's like winter in North Dakota, down 16 rums and soda. 26.
And then it's all going to this gang vocal bus, which has a compressor on it, doing, I don't know,
26 straight miles of nothing.
5 to 8 dB of gain reduction, just chopping off the transients. This is a fast attack.
6 straight miles of bullshit. It's like waking up behind the sofa.
That's going to a vocal reverb bus, and then to this gang vocal bus, which has another compressor on it.
8 miles till I can ignore, till I can endure. It's
Barely
like
even touching this
winter in
compressor.
North Dakota.
And then it's got Soothe 2 on it. I guess I found there was a little too much 2.5K. Here's before and after Soothe. Before.
26 straight miles of bullshit. It's like waking up behind
After.
the sofa, face down and far from sober. 26 straight miles.
That goes to the hall reverb.
It's like winter in North Dakota, down 16 rums and soda.
So here's that outro chorus with all the vocals.
It's like winter in North Dakota, down 16 rums and soda. 26 straight miles of nothing, 26 straight miles of bullshit. It's like waking up behind the sofa, face down and far from sober. 26 straight miles till I can ignore, till I can endure.
Last but not least, there's this small intro. And I say small intro because it's made to feel small so that when the song kicks in, it feels larger. It sounds like this.
It's like winter in North Dakota, down 16 rums and soda. 26 straight miles till I can endure.
So this intro is just the guitar and one lead vocal, and there's less processing on these things. The lead guitar is being done with the Corey Wong amp sim, and the lead vocal just has some compression on it.
It's like winter in North Dakota, down 16
Here's without.
rums and soda. 26 straight miles till I
Here it is without any bus processing.
It's like winter in North Dakota.
We've got some compressors, and then this distortion to make it sound like it's coming in through a radio. We've got this Abbey Road tape simulator.
It's like winter in North
Here's before
Dakota, down 16 rums and
and after.
soda. 26 straight miles till I can endure.
And then we put some reverb directly on this bus. The idea was that it would sound far away, and then when the song hits, it would hit you in the face. So this has some Valhalla vintage verb with almost 2 seconds of decay on it.
It's like winter in North Dakota, down 16 rums and soda. 26 straight miles till I can endure.
And that's it for North Dakota by Overeyes. Go listen to it wherever you regularly stream music, and you can check out the video on my YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have any questions about the mixing process or anything that I did in this video, hit me up in the comments. I'm happy to take any questions. Hope to see you soon.